Hey guys, Pitmaster here.
Start over.
I can't. So I'm here with the doc.
All right, John. How's it going, man?
There's no do-overs on YouTube. Anyway, we are going to talk about something very interesting because this is one of the fastest growing podcasts in the whole world. That's what we think anyway. But anyway, so we're going to talk about a couple things. Number one, the shoulder. Okay. A lot of people have shoulder injuries out there, guys. A lot of people have shoulder issues out there. I'm one of them. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about, as martial artists, which we are, and most of you guys are out there, what's worth dying for? And we're going to talk about that. So we got a couple of interesting.
Big topics. Big topics. Well, let's start out with the shoulder, John.
Let's start with the shoulder.
You know a lot on the shoulder anatomy.
do.
You've been studying it lately.
Yep.
This is what takes up a lot of my day is people coming in with shoulder pain into my office. So you want to go over this? Do you want to tell them what the anatomy is?
No, you good, but I'll just tell you right here.
Point to stuff.
This is right here, the clavicle, and this right here is the scapula.
Show them how thin
the shoulder blade.
Show them how thin the scapula
It's thin. It's like it could be used as an axe.
It's very thin. It's the shoulder blade, or it's the scapula as we call it. But it's a very flat bone, and is basically the attachment site for how many muscles, John?
I'll go with 18.
17.
So
So close. 7, maybe in your shoulder.
probably the way my
it's
shoulder.
typically 17 muscles. So it's a lot of muscles attached to that one bone. And the interesting thing about the shoulder is your arm is connected to the rest of your body just through this right here. So through your shoulder blade and your clavicle. So there's not much holding this on to your body. It's mostly held on by muscles. But the shoulder blade floats on your back and over your rib cage, and gives you a big portion of your motion when you raise your arm up. At least a third of your motion comes from your scapula just rotating. So going on in the anatomy, John, you know what that stuff is there?
What does this cause right here? This is the ouch right here. That 70% of all shoulder pain is
breaking out the statistics.
Is because of this right here becoming. Some people are too forward. Some people just don't train their shoulders. But right here they call it impingement. Ouch.
Impingement. So that bone up on top here called your acromion, which is actually part of your scapula. Did you know that? If you follow your scapula here along the scapular spine, this bone right here is part of your scapula. Yeah, it's called your acromion. And so impingement is when you get pinching underneath the ball or the humeral head against the acromion underneath. So there's a lot of causes for that and a lot of thoughts about what causes that. But in my office, one of the most common things that causes shoulder pain is problems with your rotator cuff or related to impingement. So the rotator cuff are all those muscles that attach around the ball. There's 4 of them, and they can get pinched underneath the acromion at the top. So, John, you have shoulder pain.
I have extreme shoulder pain.
And you've had shoulder pain for a long time, because I know you had an MRI a long time ago.
2006, I hurt my shoulder. Well, to be honest, I had shoulder pain on my left side when I was fighting, because in martial arts, we stretch. When you think stretch, everybody thinks about their legs. They want to stretch their legs so they can kick higher, so it looks cooler. I've never once thought of stretching my shoulders. When our instructor said stretch, I would try to do splits, stretch your hamstrings, and stuff like that. But nobody stretches their shoulders. So the shoulders get tight. And all that training martial artists do, we put a lot into our deltoids and our shoulders. So we kind of go forward a little bit. And that increases the significance and the cause of the impingement. We don't stretch our shoulders. We're like this because we work them so much. We don't do a lot of overhead stuff. We do a lot of front deltoid, front shoulder work.
And chest work, just pushing.
And then we get like this. And that helps with the impingement. And if you get an injury and you're tight, not loose, everything hurts that much more. And it becomes injured that much easier as opposed to if you're stretched out. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and another thing we see a lot of is when you have an injury to the shoulder joint and the shoulder joint doesn't want to move normally, it makes your scapula have to make up the difference. So your scapula has to move more and rotate more on your back. And then all the muscles that attach to your scapula don't like that very much. And so people start getting muscle spasms up here in your trapezius and musculature. So when you have shoulder pain, a lot of people secondarily get pain up on the top of the shoulder and these neck muscles up here. So a big part of it is stretching, but another big part of it is strengthening the muscles in your shoulder, the finer muscles. These rotator cuff muscles are much smaller than what you see, your deltoid, that you work on building up. These smaller muscles are very important to how your shoulder functions and keeps the ball centered in the socket. When the ball isn't centered in the socket, it rides up and pinches on this bone. So keeping those rotator cuff muscles strong, John, through those exercises that I know I've seen you doing, those rotational exercises, is really important. So rotator cuff strengthening is a good preventive measure for shoulder problems as well.
Don't you think that instead of focusing on the rotator cuff muscles, wouldn't it, like, instead of micromanaging or micro working out muscles, kind of like CrossFit says, like they don't do the bicep ever because they say all your pull-ups are working the bicep. Wouldn't all like your rows and your pull-ups and your other shoulder exercises be working your rotator cuff, the finer muscles in your rotator cuffs?
They absolutely, I think they're a big part of it, and I think that's the way most people strengthen those muscles. But I think it's different when you're talking about an injury and trying to recover from an injury versus how you train. So those complex movements you do, doing a leg press or doing a squat instead of doing leg extensions, which just isolate your quads and aggravate your patella or your kneecap, doing those motions that are combined that use multiple muscles, I agree with that.
So, okay. Yeah. So for you guys that are training, but stretch your fucking shoulders. I mean, if worst case, if all
That's
you
a
got,
good name for a book.
stretch your fucking shoulders. If worse gets to worse, hang. You know, grab a pole and just go all this way as far as you can. Then go all this way as far as you can. And then put your hands on the ground and just stretch them out as far as you can. Stretch your shoulders. You can get a book. Go get a book. Go on
The only
Amazon.
difference I'd have with that is stretching to the point where you're causing pain. I don't think you're doing yourself any benefit because you're causing more inflammation in your shoulder.
Yeah.
So it's better to rehab without the sharp pain. Soreness is probably one thing, but causing sharp pain when you're trying to rehab an injury is usually not productive.
Well, I'm not talking about rehabbing. I'm talking about just in general, we should all stretch our shoulders better so we don't get injured.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what we see in repetitive use injuries. If you take a baseball player that throws constantly and does an overhead throwing motion, they do get tightness in parts of their shoulder, and the main treatment for that is stretching it out. And now we've learned the main treatment to prevent these throwers or to help prevent these throwers from getting shoulder problems is to do the stretching preemptively, just like you're talking about.
I wish someone would have told me that back in the day. That's one of the things, if I could go back and change things, that would be one of them. Don't ever cheat on my significant other. That would be one of them.
Number one?
That's number one, without a doubt.
Okay.
That is my number one regret in life, cheating on my significant others. I wish if I could take one thing back, one choice away, that would be number one. I'm telling you, stretching my shoulders isn't that far behind them because I've had a lot of shoulder injuries, and I think they could have been alleviated or prevented if I stretched out my shoulders as much as I stretched out my legs. I've never really hurt my legs, my knees, my hamstrings. You know, I've never really got injuries there per se, you know, little ones here and there, but nothing like my shoulders. And I think it's mainly, if not entirely, because I did not stretch my shoulders. So number one, do not ever cheat on significant other. Don't. Number two, you guys, stretch your shoulders.
And this is 60 years worth of experience telling you that. Those two things.
Yeah,
Those are big.
If nothing else. There are other things too, but those are definitely two of them. I could change right now. I would do it, and I would change those two things. But anyway, so strengthen and stretch your shoulders to help, not only to make them stronger, you'll hook harder, and you won't hurt your shoulders as often. So stretch your shoulders and strengthen your shoulders. And don't only think pushing, there's also pulling. So every time you do pushing, do pulling. It doesn't have to be on the same day, but if you work your pushing muscles one week, do your pulling muscles the next week. Because they have to, if you're all pushing, you're going to bunch it up. Okay, so work those shoulders both ways. So very important.
And
okay?
I think a big part in training is, this whole no pain, no gain philosophy. You feel this way too about sparring, getting hit in the head. The no pain, no gain philosophy does not apply to when your joint is causing you pain. If your muscles are sore from working out, that's fine. If your joint is causing you sharp pain and you keep doing it anyway, you're going to end up in my office sooner rather than later. So I think avoiding painful exercises is actually important.
Yeah, there's a fine line there.
There's a fine line, but I'm talking about joint pain.
Right. But then there's some people that every little thing they might, every little pain, like
that's
me.
That's different.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
it's a
For you regular
self-selecting
guys
group.
out there. For you regular
I
guys
think
out there.
you know what I mean. And I think some people just try to ignore problems, and they try to work through the pain, and it typically gets worse. That's a big part of what I do I see it every day. Is you see someone that has an overuse injury, and they finally come into your office when they've broken their leg. They have a stress fracture from running, and they just wouldn't stop running. It's the same applies whether it's your leg or your shoulder. If you're training through the pain, you need to cross train, and try to let that part calm down or rehab it. So
And stretch your shoulders before, as a preventative, stretch your shoulders. Okay. So anyway, so this is the shoulder. Okay, number 2, let's talk about. Okay, if you guys have any comments here, leave them in our comments, and we will answer them. And if it's specific to sports medicine stuff, he'll answer it. If it's specific to martial arts, fitness, and
or cheating
on your significant other,
ask John.
oh my God, please don't do that. That's such a big rule in my gym. Yeah, I get involved in my guys. I get involved in my students, and that's one of the things. I tell my fight team, you cheat on your significant other, you're off the team. I wish someone would have told me that. But I always had people like, oh yeah, you're cool, man. You're fooling around. You're a stud, And that it's a terrible mentality. It's amoral, right? And it lacks integrity. It just does. It makes you a douchebag. So anyway, do not cheat on your significant other. And if your significant other cheats on you, kick her to the curb or kick him to the curb like that. That's a no-brainer. Boom. I don't want that anymore in my life. So anyway, okay. If you got any questions about that, let me know. Life coach right here. Okay. Melvin Harris, what did he do wrong? I'll tell you what he did wrong. His daughter went into the bathroom at a convenience store like midnight.
Is this a recent story? I don't know this story.
Yeah. Well, it's recent-ish. I thought it was more recent, but I think it's recent because the court thing went back and forth, and I think he just got like 8 years or something. So they go into a convenience store, right? And she goes into the bathroom, the woman's bathroom. It was labeled men and women. And when she came out, she told her dad that while she was in there, somebody jiggled on the door, and it was a guy. Okay? And so...
This is a convenience store?
Yeah, it was a convenience store. So the dad went up to the security guy, according to her, the daughter, during the interview, and I guess the security guy goes, yeah, he's done that before. Kind of fishy. Then why isn't he kicked out if he's going into the woman's bathroom? So the dad goes up to the guy outside. The guy's leaving now. So the dad follows him out. Told the security guard, should have called the cops, but followed him out to the parking lot and proceeds to beat the shit out of him to death. He kills the guy out there. So it wasn't self-defense, obviously. The guy was leaving. The guy didn't touch the girl. He shook the door. For all the guy knew, that guy could have gone into the wrong bathroom. I've like walked into the wrong bathroom. Oh shit, and gone, left. Maybe this guy was high or stoned or drunk or something, and he walked into the wrong bathroom and he shook the door. As soon as he found out it was locked, he stopped. He didn't try to get into the stall. He shook the stall. So he could have been drunk. Who knows? So the dad follows him out into the parking lot, and I even read like people on the internet, yeah, somebody did that to my daughter. I go out there and kill him, yada yada yada. Then who's going to protect your daughter? You're going to jail. You're going to go to jail then. So now that daughter that you protected, who's getting? She won't have a father to protect her. He'll be locked up in prison with a new wife / cellmate. So it's the dumbest thing in the world. What would you do? I'll tell you what I would do. Somebody went into my daughter's stall or into the bathroom. My daughter was in there, and she came out and told me. I would approach the guy. I'd approach him and say, "Bro, why would you in there?" And somebody said you should hold him until the cops get there. Terrible advice. You never want to lay your hands on someone and restrict them from leaving. That's called false imprisonment. You can't do that. You cannot do that. You could video them, put them on a video and say, "Why'd you go in my daughter's bathroom? We're calling 911. Wait here for the cops." If the guy had nothing to hide, he'll say, "All right, I'll wait here." And if he does, he'll leave. Do not try to stop him. Follow him if you can, right? With the camera going. But don't ever put your hands on someone unless it's self-defense. This was far from self-defense. It was far.
It was after the fact.
It was completely after the fact, and
Plus,
we don't even know what happened.
The report that I read just now just said he was drunk.
Okay.
And he was trying to get in the bathroom. He didn't get in the bathroom, as far as I can tell. And then maybe he had done it before, but the dad was clearly
In the wrong.
enraged, and he told the attendant at the gas station or whatever, that guy needs an ass beating, and I'm going to give it to him. And then he punched him and stomped on his head while he was on the ground, and he died.
You never
So
stomp
that's
on
not
anyone's head.
You're not defending anyone in that
Yeah.
circumstance.
And to be honest, for anyone that says, "Oh, if this was my daughter, I'd do that," then you're stupid, because you'll never be able to defend your daughter if she really needed it. You're not going to be able to support her, to see her go to the prom. You're not going to be able to do anything. You can't even intimidate the person she brings over that she's going to the prom with now, because you're in prison with your new wife / cellmate.
He also torched his estranged wife's car. That came up in the trial.
So the guy's not that's not something good, guys. Okay? And for, I mean, the guy could have been drunk. He just walked into the wrong bathroom. It's not worth dying for. It's not worth killing for. It's not worth fighting for. And it's not worth going to prison for.
Interesting. He was arrested 17 times, 6 of which were for violent crimes.
Oh my God.
So there you go.
So don't.
How did he got manslaughter?
Yeah, I know. That was crazy.
Wow. Manslaughter's like unintentional, right?
I know. And he killed the guy on purpose.
How does he plead to
Because
manslaughter?
it was a trade, or what do we call it?
It was a plea deal.
A bargain. So it's easier for the DA just to make a deal, and he doesn't have to go to court. Okay, I'll make you a deal.
So he gets 8 years, which will be out in 4.
You might, yeah. And realize, guys, those are the kind of guys walking around in the street.
Man, I could see how this article, though, people would just read the headline.
Yeah, I know, and say, "Oh, good for him, he did it. He was a hero." He's not a hero. He's a fucking dipshit. He'll never be able to protect his daughter. He killed some guy I know. He walked into the wrong bathroom, and he shook on the stall, and then he left. And that's you're not a smart dad. You're not a good dad for doing that. You're not a good dad for that. Now you're not going to be able to raise by the time you get out of prison, your daughter's going to be in her 20s with her own kids. Video it and call 911. Not call 911, video it and approach the guy. Don't lay your hands on him. And if he comes at you, drop your camera and go. Protect yourself, yes. Go after him, no. And let me tell you something. If it did turn into a fight and you did hit him and knock him to the ground, okay, video that. Or have a witness watch that, but don't stomp on his head unless he has a gun or something. You don't stomp on his head. That looks terrible in court, guys. Can you? The DA will have a field day with you, especially if you're a martial artist, like most of my guys are. Most of the people that watch our show or listen to our show are martial artists. The DA loves martial artists because they talk about, they have deadly weapons for fists and all that shit. Don't get into fights. What's worth dying for? That's what you have to think.
This scenario is extreme because no one's gonna do what this guy did unless you're a career criminal. This guy did something most people would not.
Right,
This
but-
is not a reasonable response to what happened.
It's more reasonable than you think. There are a lot of hotheads that go.
You could say the guy raped his daughter and then came out and was no longer a threat, and the guy killed him. You'd probably have a lot of people on your side.
And you might get off for a crime of
if
passion.
he did nothing, he jiggled the door or tried to get into the bathroom. No one's gonna be on this guy's side.
Bull. I was on this.
These are only people that read the headline, though.
Yeah.
If you read the story, what this guy did,
But
some
people don't go past the headline. Even if they read it, all they're thinking about is the headline. Thinking,
clickbait.
If that was my daughter, man, I'd kill the guy. I'll kill the guy. Then you go into prison and you'll be somebody's wife.
Yeah.
So
it's
a terrible, terrible way to think. And every time anything happens in the street, anything, you always have to think: is this worth dying for? Is this worth killing for? Is this worth going to prison for? Okay. Is it worth any of those? So if the answer to those three are no, then it's not worth fighting for.
So here's a more typical example. You're at a bar and you get into some altercation in the bar, misunderstanding, and the guy says, let's take this outside. There's something that happens.
There is. Okay.
What do you do with that?
Then, okay, so somebody says, let's step outside.
That's something that...
And I've had that happen. I'll admit that. But let me tell you, hindsight, right now, I would say, if someone says, let's go outside, so you think, is this worth dying for? Is it worth killing for? Is it worth going to prison for? And if you answer no to any of those three questions, then it's not worth fighting for. Because if you go outside and fight, you might kill them, you might die, and you might go to prison. You might end up in a hospital, in a nursing home, with a tracheostomy, and a feeding tube, and diapers, and a Filipino nurse that's overworked and underpaid. Not a good sign. Nursing homes, it's not good. You're going to have a tracheostomy with the blow-by mist, and they got to suction out. You Pseudomonas. You do not want to get Pseudomonas, guys. It stinks. Pseudomonas is a gram-negative bacteria that grows inside of your lungs when you have the tracheostomy.
But you don't know how true what you just said is, because my time spent in neurosurgery when I was in training, about 50%. This was the plan. You'd go on rounds in the neurosurgical ICU, and you'd go bed to bed, neurosurgery ICU rounds, trauma center. Here's the plan. Bed 1, peg and a trach and go to rehab. That's a peg and a trach. That's a feeding tube, a breathing tube. Go to rehab. This guy can't breathe for himself. He can't eat for himself.
Why do they?
He's go to rehab. Next bed. What's the plan? Peg and a trach and go to rehab. Rehab in LA, it was Rancho. So it was peg and a trach and go to Rancho. That was the plan for half of the people.
And how are a lot of those people going to die?
Neurosurgery.
And a lot of people are going to die. 2 reasons. Number one, it's not these Filipino nurses' fault. They're very hardworking, but they can only turn you so many times. And if you don't turn them enough, not only do they get bed sores, their kidneys start failing. And if the respiratory therapist who might be on just got out of rehab and he forgot to make his rounds, so he didn't get to suction you every 4 hours, now you're gonna get Pseudomonas, which is a terrible, terrible pneumonia, and it could kill you. You can die of that. So stay. I don't even know what we're talking about. Oh, getting a fight. So stay out of getting fights.
My question. Someone says, let's take this outside. You're in the bar, they pinch Heather's butt and she slaps him. Yeah. Now, so where are we at, John? What are you doing next?
If someone slapped her, grabbed her butt, right, and she slapped him, that is not worth dying for, not worth going to prison for. So no, it's not worth fighting for. It's not worth killing for. Now, if somebody was attacking her, physically attacking her right then, yeah, it's worth fighting for. It's worth going to prison or dying or killing if somebody's physically attacking one of my family members or one of my close friends.
Or you think they're about to.
Yes, but not if they just pinched your ass. Then, that's something. I would talk about their mom. I would fucking berate them. I would fucking try to get them to attack me, but I'm not going to attack them for doing that because then check this out. Then they pinch your wife's ass. You're gonna beat them up, but guess what? Then you're gonna either end up in a nursing home, right, or dead, or you killed the guy, so you're going to go to prison. Any of those three, right? Any of those three scenarios right there, that wife that you're protecting because somebody grabbed her butt, she's going to be fucking someone else because you're in prison, you're dead, or you're in a coma. So now that wife that you went and protected, she's going to be with someone else. It's not worth it.
That's a dark view of the world.
But it's so true. It is so true. So this way you can be with her. You save face, right? So you say some terrible things to the guy, right? Give him your card. Invite him to the gym. Say, I'm going to fight you at the gym. Here's my card. Make him sign a waiver. Take him to a martial arts gym. Bring him to the pit. Beat the shit out of him then in front of your wife. Then you'll get laid. Everything will be happy. She'll look at you with these new eyes like, oh, he's my man. But if they pinch your butt and you beat the guy up in the bar, you're going to jail. You think she's going to wait for you while you're in prison? No, they do not wait for you if you go to prison. They hook up with a neighbor or somebody they met at the grocery store or some shit like that. It is stupid.
Even if the two people want to go outside and fight and whatever, have a fair fight or whatever, someone ends up hitting their head on the concrete. This is something I saw a lot, at a trauma center, is someone gets hurt and maybe they weren't planning on hurting someone that bad, but if you get in a fist fight and someone gets knocked out and hits their head on the ground, they're not in a cage. There's no mat.
There's no referee.
There's no referee. There's no referee. There's no doctor right there.
If somebody
More importantly,
if someone challenges you to a fight, yeah, but neurosurgeon or a ER doc.
the referee actually is probably more important. He can stop it.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's just if somebody challenges you to a fight, right? The best way you could save face without going to prison, dying, or ending up in a coma, is just say, yeah, let's go to the gym. Let's go fucking go at it. You're not going to get sued if you go to a martial arts gym, a boxing gym, or something like that. And then fucking go at it. Beat the shit out of them. People don't... Have you ever heard of anybody suing one of their opponents in a ring or a cage? People have been killed. People have died in the ring.
Has that ever happened?
No.
A boxer
they don't get sued because it's an assumed risk.
That's amazing.
Assumed risk. So take them into a ring.
It doesn't matter.
Kill them there if you want.
It doesn't matter because it's the guy's dead. It's his family that ends up.
Right, but the judge is going to say, why are you suing us? He went in there. It's an assumed risk that he's going to get the shit kicked out of him.
They've been sued, but I don't know if anyone's ever won.
Yeah. So anyway, just kind of that's what you should think. Those three things right there. If you ever want to fight someone, right, in the street, you just got to think of those three things. Okay? Is it worth dying for? Is it worth killing for? Or is it even worth going into a rehab center in a coma? Is that worth it? And if you answer no to any of those three questions, then do not fight. Don't fight, guys. It's not worth it. What do you think?
No, it's interesting. I typed that into Google. The first result is a boxer's family that sued the ringside physician for $50 million because he didn't stop the fight. And then he ended up in a coma.
Yeah. But there's never been a fighter or a fighter's family that sued another family. Sued the fighter for doing it. So if somebody challenges you to a fight, just say, yeah, let's go to the gym. Here's my card. Or meet him at a gym. Make him sign a waiver. Okay? And then go at it. Beat the shit out of them. They pinched your wife's ass. Beat the shit out of them. Yeah? Beat the shit out of them. But in the street, there's no upside to it. You're either gonna go to jail, rehab with a head trauma, or you're gonna die. You're going to the cemetery. And in any of those three scenarios, right, that wife that you're protecting will be with someone else. Nobody is gonna wait. I'm telling you right now, if you're in fucking coma and you got tracheostomy, no wife is gonna wait for you. She'll be hooking up with the first guy she meets at the grocery store. I'm telling you right now, she'll hook up with a yoga instructor. Okay, they'll even scrape the bottom that way. Okay, or if you end up in prison, or if you end up dead, your wife's not gonna wait for you if you're in prison. She's not. I'm telling you, she's just not. So that wife that you're protecting because someone pinched her ass, now everybody's gonna be pinching her ass, and she's gonna be liking it. So bing, stay out of prison, guys. Don't get in fights in the street. It's stupid and it's not worth it.
Couples therapy? What do you think? What do you mean? John, till next time, man. Take it easy.
Bing.